Good morning to all and welcome to the session, the Hindu Editorial Analysis for Proficiency in English. Today's editorial is all about manufacturing vaccines and drugs, and it talks about the IPR, intellectual property rights and patents, an important editorial. And only a few words are there, not too many words, and not completely new. Many of those words are quite familiar. Besides the editorial analysis, today you're going to work on, as usual, error location, and I have brought a new exercise, word swap. That is not very difficult, but a new exercise. A few questions are quite challenging. Now let us go to editorial vocabulary and see what is there to learn. Please excuse me. As I said, not too many words. The first one, hinder. Hinder, we have got many a time. Hinder means what? To block, to impede. Make it difficult for someone to do something or for something to happen. Hinder also means you have to recollect the words block as well as impede. Impede is a verb form, impediment is a noun form. Hinder something or hinder someone. Make it difficult for someone to do something or something for something to happen. Familiar word. Ingredients, this is also a familiar word. Usually it goes with recipes. What are the ingredients to make something? A component part or element of something. But in this context, the ingredients, the word goes with manufacturing of drugs. Solidarity goes with unions, it goes with people, it goes with members, it goes with basically it goes with polity. Solidarity means unity or agreement of feeling or action, especially among individuals with a common interest. As I said, solidarity among the union members or the people or the group. Overwhelmingly, overwhelming adjective, overwhelming impact, overwhelmingly adverb, very great in amount or extent. Something makes a tremendous impact on you, then you say overwhelming impact. Truce, usually it goes with war, an agreement between enemies or opponents to stop fighting or arguing for a certain time. Usually, at the time of the war, they want to stop and they want to negotiate or they want to stop the war. Then we use the word truce. Explicit, I use regularly. There are two words you should know for sure when it comes to when you read a passage and try to comprehend. There are two words you have to know. One is explicit, the other one is implicit. Explicit means what? Stated clearly and in detail, leaving no room for confusion or doubt. Opposite, implicit. Implicit means not stated. You don't find in the passage, but when you read the passage, but it is conveyed indirectly. Then we use the word implicit. Surplus, I always tell students questions based on explicit information, easy to answer. Questions based on implicit information, difficult to answer. You have to read analytically, only then you can answer. Surplus, more than what is needed or used. You can also think of the word excess, surplus of something, excess of something. Turmoil, we have got many a time. It goes with political turmoil. Turmoil means what? A state of great disturbance, confusion, or uncertainty. You have to think of the word chaos, chaotic situation, turmoil. Wrangling, I think we have got recently. Wrangle, engagement in a long, complicated dispute or argument. Wranglers, noun form. And there's a brand, Wrangler jeans, I suppose. A reprieve, usually it goes with punishment. You delay the punishment or death penalty, we use the word reprieve. But here there's another meaning. A reprieve is a delay before a very unpleasant or difficult situation which may or may not take place. It goes with a situation, but generally do remember reprieve goes with punishment. In a nutshell, delaying something that is unpleasant or delaying punishment or death penalty. Waiver, this goes with the field of education. It also goes with the field of business. The act of intentionally relinquishing, giving up, or abandoning a known right. But generally, we use waiver. Imagine there's a student who is going to the US or some country. The course fee is $2,000, but based on his merit, the university decides to charge only $1,000. That means $1,000 waived off, means not considered. This also goes with interest part. Sometimes people request, please waive off the interest part. Facilitate, you should not get confused between facilitation and felicitation. These two words come under confusing words. Felicitation, it goes with success. But here, facilitate, it goes more with HR managers. Facilitate, make something easy or easier. Revoke, officially cancel a decree, a decision, or promise. This we have got in the recent past many a time. There is a noun form options when it comes to civil services. This word is used quite often. What are your options? Opt is a verb, options noun. Opt means make a choice from a range of possibilities. You opt something, sometimes someone means what? You choose something or someone. Forum, a familiar word, a meeting or medium where ideas and views on a particular issue can be exchanged. It's a platform, you can say, where ideas are exchanged. Champion as a noun, you all know, everyone knows the meaning, but in this context, it has been used as a verb. As a verb, champion a cause, vigorously support or defend the cause of something. A different meaning. Taxes also, yes, waived off. Very good. That's all about the vocabulary part. Not too many words and not too difficult. The many words are quite familiar, known words and easy words. Now let us go to the editorial. Too little, too late. Not easy to comprehend what exactly it is about based on these expressions. Too little, too late. But exam point of view, grammar point of view, the moment you come across words like little, few, you have to recollect a little, the little. Little means what? Almost nothing, hardly anything. A little, at least something. And the little, whatever is there or specific. Same thing you have to recollect, same meanings go with few, hardly anything or almost nothing, a few, at least some, the few, whatever is there or something specific. So you can't make out based on these two. Let us go to the next sentence to make out what exactly the editorial is about. India must oppose moves. Must oppose, must helping verb, we have got so many times. Now you should have the function of the word or the helping verb must at your fingertips. It has two functions. One is it is used to express an obligation imposed by the speaker, or you can also say it is used to express a personal obligation. The second meaning of the word must, it is used to convey the idea something is compulsory. Here it is more like a personal obligation or obligation imposed by the speaker. In this context, the editorial. India must oppose moves to hinder. Hinder means block, impede, make it difficult for someone to do something or for something to happen. India must oppose. So it is, in a way, negative. The sentence is not something positive but negative. India must oppose moves to hinder the flow of ingredients for manufacturing vaccines. Though here you see it touches only one dimension, when you read the editorial, you understand there are three dimensions. One is manufacturing vaccines, the other one drugs, and one more dimension. It is all about all the three dimensions, but the focus is more on the last two, not only the vaccines, but two more dimensions are there. Hinder already have given the meaning. Ingredients, usually it goes with recipes. When someone wants to make a dish, we use the word recipe. What is a recipe? Then we use the word ingredients, a component part or element of something. But in this context, whatever goes into manufacturing of vaccines or drugs, ingredients. So the main idea of this editorial, India must oppose moves to hinder the flow of ingredients for manufacturing vaccines. Perhaps some countries are trying to block or hinder, and India must oppose moves to hinder, moves the plans or the actions or the ideas to hinder the flow of ingredients for manufacturing vaccines. Not only vaccines, but also two more dimensions are there. When we read the editorial, we come across. In 2020, now it goes back. In 2020, a key question that the pandemic posed was whether nations would act in solidarity and prioritize equity for the larger good over narrow self interest. In 2020, the pandemic, everyone experienced the pandemic. The pandemic posed a question. What was the question? A key question whether nations would act in solidarity and prioritize equity for the larger good of the mankind or over narrow self-interest. So the pandemic in 2020 posed a key question. What was the question? Whether the nations would go be in solid act in solidarity, keeping in mind the welfare of a lot of people across the country, or they would choose narrow self-interest. The next sentence talks about what they chose. The experience in 2021, from 2020 to 2021, the experience in 2021 was that rich countries overwhelmingly chose self interest. That means what? They did not choose, they did not act in solidarity, and they did not choose equity for the larger good. Equity, they did not choose, they chose self interest. There's one word over here, overwhelmingly, very great in amount or something that makes an impact to a great extent. The experience in 2021, on the contrary, they had a choice, act in solidarity and priorities equity for the larger good over narrow self interest. Unfortunately, the rich countries chose self interest. The experience in 2021 was that rich countries overwhelmingly, that is again very unfortunate, overwhelmingly chose self interest, with several countries deciding to first inoculate their population multiple times over rather than ensure poorer nations have at least a first round. Now, what happened? A lot of countries they had the populations, they had the people, they had the first round, the second round, the third round. On the contrary, many countries, especially the African countries and some Latin American and Asian countries, they could not afford to have the first round. So, this sentence talks about that. The experience in 2021 was that rich countries overwhelmingly chose self interest, with several countries, here you have to understand several means several countries deciding to first inoculate their populations multiple times over rather than ensure poorer nations have at least a first round. It was amid this turmoil, amid we have got many a time, in the middle of. It was amid this turmoil. Turmoil usually goes with the polity. Political turmoil means what? Disturbance. It was amid this turmoil that India and South Africa had proposed at the WTO that all patent rights for COVID 19 vaccines. I said there are three dimensions. One is vaccines, drugs, and diagnostics. So, what are the remaining two? Drugs and diagnostics. Be temporarily suspended to ensure smooth manufacture and distribution. This goes with the main idea of the editorial. It was amid this turmoil, disturbance. Turmoil means what? A state of great disturbance, confusion, or uncertainty. You should recollect the word chaos, chaotic situation. It was in the middle of this political, not political here, in the middle of this disturbance or chaotic situation that India and South Africa had proposed at the WTO that all patent rights for COVID 19 vaccines, drugs, and diagnostics be temporarily suspended so that a few countries can manufacture on their own or with tie-ups, temporarily suspended to ensure smooth manufacture and distribution. There are two dimensions again, manufacture as well as distribution. While not surprising, given the history of wrangling over IP rights. As I said, this also talks about the intellectual property rights, patents, intellectual property rights when it comes to drugs, manufacturing vaccines. Internationally, they're very important, and many companies they fight tooth and nail to get the IP rights to have the patents. While not surprising, given the history of wrangling means what? Engagement in a long, complicated dispute or argument or fight. While not surprising, given the history of wrangling over IP rights, intellectual property rights at the WTO, much of Europe and the US were against any such reprieve. When you look at the history, as I said, many countries, many companies, they fight tooth and nail to get the IP rights or to get the patent rights. So, looking at the history, it talks about Europe as well as the US were against any such reprieve. What does it mean, a reprieve? A reprieve is a delay before a very unpleasant or difficult situation which may or may not take place. In a nutshell, a reprieve means delay. It has two different dimensions. One dimension goes with punishment, death penalty, reprieve. In this context, the second meaning, delaying something, were against any such reprieve, arguing that patent rights ensured better product quality and how many countries lacked the know how and facilities. So, what was the stand taken by Europe and the US when they were against the such reprieve? They argued that patent rights, if at all some companies and some countries have the patent rights, that results in better product quality, one thing. And they also questioned how many, they also said many countries lacked the know how. This is an important expression, and facilities. When you don't have the know how and you don't have the facilities, obviously you cannot produce a quality product. So that was the stand taken by Europe and the US. Over 100 countries, that was in the past, were against. If you look at the history, they were against. That sentence talks about the past. But here, over 100 countries, including the US, support such a waiver now, present. Support such a waiver, including the US, not Europe, including the US, support such a waiver now. There's one important word over here, waiver, waive off, the act of intentionally relinquishing or abandoning a known right. In this context of patent rights, temporarily relinquishing or giving up the patent rights. The next sentence talks about the stand taken by Europe in the present scenario. The European Union appears to be signaling truce, proposing that intellectual property rights held by international pharma companies on COVID 19 vaccines be relaxed for up to 5 years. Truce, there's one important word. Loan waiver, obviously, it goes with the financial banks, and you have to know that word at any cost. So, here, truce, there's an important word. What does it mean? Usually, the word truce goes with war, an agreement between enemies or opponents to stop fighting or arguing for a certain time. The European Union appears to be signaling truce, proposing that IPR, intellectual property rights, held by international pharma companies on COVID 19 vaccines be relaxed for up to 5 years. 5 years, they said, could be relaxed. This reprieve, again the word reprieve, will however not apply to COVID drugs and diagnostic devices. As I said, apparently the editorial looks like it is about the vaccines, but when you read the editorial, you understand it is not only about the vaccines, but there are two more dimensions. It is more about those two dimensions. What are those two dimensions? One is COVID drugs and diagnostic devices. This sentence is very important. It reiterates the main idea of the editorial. This reprieve will, however, not apply to, it applies only to manufacturing of vaccines, will, however, not apply to COVID drugs and diagnostic devices. The waiver also allows pharma companies in developing countries to make and further down export vaccines without explicit permission from the patent holders, says a version of the negotiating text. This is something positive. The waiver also allows pharma companies in developing countries to make or manufacturing the vaccines, and further down, export vaccines without explicit permission. They don't have to directly take the permission from the patent holders, says a version of the negotiating text. While on the surface, excuse me, while on the surface it signals equity, the proposal does not go far. On the surface, apparently, obviously, it signals equity. While on the surface it signals equity, the proposal does not go far. Let us see why the said statement has been given, how the editorial substantiate this particular statement. Along with Western European nations and the US, several Indian companies are now makers of COVID-19 vaccines that feed domestic needs and are available for export. Based on this waiver, today, along with Western European nations and the US, several Indian companies are now makers of COVID 19 vaccines. They are able to manufacture that feed domestic needs, that cater to the needs of the country, within the country, and are available for export. Not only the domestic needs, but also available for export. They have achieved this through technology licensing arrangements with the US and elsewhere. So how is it how it became a reality? They have achieved this. What is this in this context? Manufacturing the vaccines, and also to be in a position where they are able to export the vaccines. They have achieved this through technology licensing arrangements with the US and elsewhere. International facilities such as COVAX are now dealing with the problem of surplus. Once we had the problem of not enough vaccines were available at one point, scarcity or shortage or dearth of vaccines. But today we have on the other side, on the other hand, surplus. Look at this sentence. International facilities such as COVAX are now dealing with the problem of surplus vaccines. What does it mean, surplus? More than what is needed or used, or in a nutshell, excess vaccines. And India too has begun expanding the drive to vaccinate younger populations. Therefore, vaccines really are not the challenge they were 2 years ago. As I said, 2 years ago it was a challenge, manufacturing vaccines and availability of vaccines. No longer. Therefore, based on this, therefore, vaccines really are not the challenge they were 2 years ago. Now it is not an issue to manufacture vaccines. At the same time, to export also, it is not a problem. Now it talks about the other dimensions. A waiver of IP rights means little unless companies also share their trade secrets, and nothing in the current agreement hints at whether such sharing will be facilitated. Now, this sentence talks about besides the waiver of IP rights, there's something else the companies have to do. What is that? They have to share their trade secrets. But in this negotiation or the agreement, it is not clear. A waiver of IP rights means little, it means nothing, unless companies also share their trade secrets. If they share their trade secrets, it means something. If they don't share their trade secrets, it means nothing. And nothing in the current agreement hints at whether such sharing will be facilitated. There's no clue whatsoever whether such sharing is going to be facilitated. There's one important word, facilitate. Make an action or process easy or easier. Facilitators facilitate. Several countries, including India, already have compulsory licensing arrangements wherein the government can revoke existing patents to enable drug manufacturing. As I said, now we talked about the other dimensions, drug manufacturing and diagnostics. Several countries, including India, already have compulsory licensing arrangements. What is this compulsory licensing arrangement? Wherein the government can revoke, an important word, officially cancel existing patents to enable drug manufacturing. Once they revoke existing patents, it results in companies can manufacture drugs to enable drug manufacturing. Newer vaccine and drug manufacturing platforms have risen, bringing in their own complexities. Perhaps because of this, newer vaccine and drug manufacturing platforms have risen. Rise, rose, risen. You have to recollect the two confusing verbs, rise and raise, bringing in their own complexities. And drug manufacturing companies have opted to enter into international collaborations rather than use forums such as the WTO to fight inequity. Now, companies, there are two options for the companies. One is to fight for equity at an international platform like WTO, that is one option. And the other option, they can directly enter into international collaborations. Now, this sentence talks about the second option the companies have chosen. And drug manufacturing companies have opted to, opt means to choose, enter into, an important expression, usually when it comes to walk or building, walk into a building. We can use a preposition into, a run into, you can use. But enter into a building is not correct. Enter a building. But the word enter takes a preposition into when it comes to contracts, agreements, collaborations. That difference you have to recollect and consolidate. Drug manufacturing companies have opted to enter into international collaborations rather than use forums, platforms such as the WTO to fight inequity. The Indian government must be more vocal about facilitating access to drugs and diagnostics and continue to champion the cause of developing countries. Now, how does the editorial end? It talks about the Indian government must be more vocal about facilitating access to drugs and diagnostics and continue to champion the cause of developing countries. There's one word over here, champion. Champion as a noun, everyone knows, but here it has been used as a verb. As a verb, what does it mean? Vigorously support or defend the cause of, champion the cause of, or defend the cause of developing countries. It must also strongly oppose moves to hinder the flow of ingredients necessary to manufacture them. The main idea has been reiterated over here. So that's all about the editorial. An important editorial you may get as a passage, not directly about this, but generally remember IPR, an important topic, and patent rights, another important topic. Sometimes you get as a passage, either prelims or mains, they may not ask you to write when it comes to the descriptive paper, not easy to write. It goes more with the legal dimension. But generally, from a layman's point of view, you may get a passage when it comes to intellectual property rights or patents, patent rights. So you should have the basic information related to these two dimensions, very important. Let us have a look at the questions based on this editorial comprehension point of view. What is this editorial about? What was a key question that the pandemic posed in 2020? A key question that the pandemic posed. What does a waiver allow in the context of the editorial? The waiver allows something. So, what does it? You have to answer based on the keywords. What are bringing in their own complexities? Certain things are bringing in their own complexities, and what are they? You have to answer based on the keywords. The Indian government must be more vocal about what? More vocal means more demanding, or they have to ask for something more deliberately. So, what it is, you have to write. Not difficult to answer. Now let us go to, it has taken almost 30 minutes, the editorial analysis. Let us go to practice questions based on exam topics. The first five questions go with error location. A few are challenging, but one or two easy, should not be that difficult. Please go to question number one and try to spot the error. He said that the project was pivotal in securing cities, and they have decided to expedite the process of hiring program managers. Looks like tomorrow, I think there is an exam tomorrow. Those who are going to take, I wish them all the best. Do well. Yes, very good. Whenever you come across words like said, asked, told, ordered, warned, requested. You should think of narration or indirect speech. And it's a statement. Said goes with a statement. Excuse me, I have a bad throat. Oh, you have today. All the best. You are here, Srinivas. All the best. I appreciate your interest. Really surprised. A pleasant surprise. All the same. All the best and do well. He said that the project was pivotal. Actual statement. The project of Puma also very good. All the best. Those who have the exam today and tomorrow, I wish them all the best. Do well. I'm sure you guys are going to. You guys are going to do well. I'm very confident about that. Okay, ESIC UDC exam. Fine. That's why the number has come down today. Usually it is 100 plus, 150 plus, but today it hasn't reached the regular number. No problem. They have decided no. The actual statement, the project is pivotal. Is changes to was because the reporting verb is in past, and present perfect changes to past perfect. Srinivas, reporting time is 10:30, and you are here. That is really good in a way. They had decided present perfect changes to past perfect. Present perfect tense changes to past perfect tense. Then it is correct. Question number 2. The results of the Civil Services Main Examination 2021 were declared, and about 60 aspirants from Telangana and Andhra Pradesh have qualified per the personality test. Pivotal, central, yes. The results of the Civil Services Main Examination 2021 were declared, and about 60 aspirants from Telangana and Andhra Pradesh have qualified for the personality test. No, the results, that is not the error. Whenever you read a sentence, I have been telling you guys, please look for the time phrase. If the time phrase is not there, we should use present perfect, not past. Based on that, the results, plural form, of the Civil Services Main Examination 2021 have been declared, not were declared. And because there's no time phrase, present perfect, second clause also present perfect, have qualified. Nothing wrong. No, we have to use present perfect. Present perfect for both the clauses. They are independent. And no time phrase, we should use present perfect for both the clauses. Let us go to question number 3. Following this, the police used force to remove women from the location and even dragged them across the ground, further enraging the mob, making them very angry. Further, recollect the difference between farther and further. FARTHER goes with distance, FURTHER goes with something more. So, where is the error? Following this, the police used a force to remove women. Question of the day. More questions are there. From the location and even dragged them across the ground, further enraging the mob. So, where is the error? Three C. B. No. Following this, not very clear but no error, the police used force to remove women, no problem. From the location and even dragged them, no problem. Across the ground is not correct. It should be along the ground. Along the ground, not across. The right word here, the correct preposition, along the ground. That means they haven't lifted the women. Along the ground, they're dragged, not across. Across means from one side to the other side. Not relevant here. Yes, across is not the right word, but what is the correct word that you should mention? Along, along the ground. How do you know that? Based on the context? Drag them. When you drag, it is along the ground, not opposite, lift them, but you're dragged along the ground. Not any. This is the question of the day, in my opinion. Never before has expert body been completely sidestepped, excuse me, to clear a vaccine for the immunization program, and by doing so has set an unhealthy precedent across the world, around the world, but along the ground, a different meaning, a different context, dragged along the ground. Contextual awareness is very important. Do remember always. This question is also a good question. That's why I said more questions are there. Never before has the expert body been completely sidestepped to clear a vaccine for the immunization program, and by doing so has set an unhealthy precedent. No need to use a setup, no need to use a set in. Sure, sure. Srinu, I will. No one has got it right. No, nothing. An important question. Never before. Negative expression. Then the clause should be in interrogative form. The expert body has been completely sidestepped. Affirmative. Sure, thank you very much. Has the expert, so interrogative form. This is an important question from that angle. Never before, here, please listen very carefully. Never, when we begin a sentence with a negative word or negative expression, the clause should be in interrogative form. It is in interrogative form. Has the expert body been completely sidestepped? For what? To clear a vaccine. For what? For the immunization program, no problem. And by doing so, has set an unhealthy precedent, no problem. So, what is the answer? No error. Answer is the fifth option. No one has got it right. It is getting delayed, unfortunately, Prasad's 20th. I said I would officially announce, but there are a few technical glitches because of those because not one. I'm working on two things simultaneously. One is my app, the other one is my website. We have to integrate these two. So it may take some time, but at any cost, all of you remember. And earlier I said April 1st, I'm going to offer the courses and so many things. And officially, I'm announcing now, it is going to be April 2nd. On the eve of Telugu New Year, Ugadi, I'm going to officially launch my app, my website, and everything will be crystal clear. You have to wait with your fingers crossed. Who has chosen no error? I don't think anyone has chosen. Srinivas says no, no error. Very good. Please go to the last one. You can say, in a way, this is also the question of the day. If every country starts taking the law into their own hands, the legitimacy of a rule based international order, which is already at a low ebb, an important expression, phrase, will come crashing down. Important expressions are there. Yes, all the classes, courses will happen. I'm going to offer live classes, Prasads. That's the reason why it is taking so long. From April 2nd, I'm going to offer courses, banks, SSC, for different competitive exams, live classes. And I'm going to start, based on the live classes, I'm going to start mock tests. It is going to be entirely different. Please wait. I'm sure you guys will be happy. And it is from the enrichment point of view. Ultimately, what matters, enrichment. If you get enriched in a better way, the chances are more to get selected. Obviously, that matters. That is the bottom line. Selection is the bottom line. Today, the ball is in my court. This is an easy one. If every have you answered question number 5? No, 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 no. If every country starts taking the law into, thank you very much, their own hands or its own hands, what will you say? I thought you would get, you don't have to go beyond the second part. You don't have to read this part of the sentence. The moment you see every student, every boy, every girl, every country, obviously you have to use a singular pronoun, whether it is a personal pronoun or a possessive pronoun. Here, if every country starts, that's the reason why sentence is in present, the verb has taken S. If every country starts taking the law into its own hands, it is based on subject pronoun agreement. This is an important dimension. I thought you guys would get it immediately. After that, there is no problem. The legitimacy of a rule based international order, which is already at a low ebb, will come crashing down. Nothing wrong. Once I say there's an error here, remaining sentence is correct. Please don't waste your time looking at other words or other expressions. Now we have, I haven't brought in the recent past, phrase replacement. Phrase replacement also you have to use your contextual awareness, grammar, and vocabulary. All the three make you have to consider. India on Thursday extended a $1 billion credit facility to Sri Lanka to assist the island nation through its worst foreign exchange crisis and enable it to procure food, medicines, and other essential items. Every takes singular verb, singular pronoun. Each, there are three distributed pronouns, but every one that is indefinite pronoun. 1D. Here, to assist the island nation through its worst foreign exchange crisis, we cannot use a plural form. Crisis is not correct. Crisis. And enable it to procure. Exchange crisis. Enable it. Without to it is not correct. And enable it to procure. Hold the second one. Exchange crisis and enable it to procure. Not correct. Enables. No. Here to assist and to enable. You have to understand to assist and to enable. We cannot use S or ES. Based on that, answer is the second option. No, no. B is the answer, not D. If you ask me, sir, why not D? To assist the island nation through its worst foreign exchange crisis and to enable it to procure food. To enable, it's understood. Enables is not correct. It is enable. Exchange crisis and enable it to procure. Answer is B. The comments from the senior official indicated the government has adopted a pragmatic approach. Pragmatic means practical approach in this matter and was likely to forge ahead. Contextual awareness is also very important. Do remember, first you try to understand the context, then use your grammar knowledge, use vocabulary knowledge, but without understanding the context, don't try to answer the question. Question number 2, C. Here, the context talks about something goes into future, likely to forge ahead. Then we cannot use the verb in the past. It should be in present, obviously. He is likely to win. They are likely to get selected. It is likely to happen. We use the verb in the present form. Based on that, was is not correct. and is likely to forged ahead. To forged, not correct. Basic form. Or here it talks about the comments from the senior official indicated the government has adopted a pragmatic approach in this matter and is likely to forge ahead. It talks about the government, then we cannot use are, not correct. And is like to forge, no, likely to forge ahead. Answer is C. And is likely to forge ahead. See, so many things you have to consider, and not easy. You got to read the sentence meticulously. Question number 3. He also issued a threat of shutting down essential services such as power and water to the areas under the cantonment, which is met with consternation and widespread condemnation. This you have to read very carefully. Pragmatic, practical. 3D. Oh, within no time. He also issued a threat. Here the verb is in past, you should understand. The context goes based on that, something happened, the reaction. So the context goes into the past. Based on that, is not correct. Which was meet, you cannot use which was met. The verb should be in the past form. And it is about a threat, singular. You cannot use a plural verb which has been met with, but the context goes into the past. On what basis I say the context goes into the past? Issued and met. So here we cannot use has been, which was met with consternation. Consternation means a feeling of shock or dismay or anxiety. Answer is D. Very good. I appreciate that. Again, not easy under pressure. Graduated steps or regulations are not going to help, as a green belt will stripped and a concrete jungle shall come up in the area. Graduated steps or regulations are not going to help, as a green belt will be stripped, removed. Strip means to remove, take off, and a concrete jungle shall come up in the area. Concrete jungle, third person singular, it talks about future, then we cannot use shall. Shall goes only with first person singular and plural, I and we. A concrete jungle will comes up after any helping verb. If you have to use a verb, that should be in the basic form without to or bare infinitive. Will come up seems right. A concrete jungle will come up in the area. A concrete jungle will came. Again, you cannot use a verb in the past form. A concrete jungle will have come up. If you want to use future perfect, you need the time that goes into future by 2025. Then you can use future perfect. But here you don't see the time. So will have come up is not correct. Answer, a concrete jungle. The green belt will be stripped. A concrete jungle will come up in the area. Already, yes, of course. Prasad, you're right. The purpose of these committees is to engage students in a positive way and encourage peer policing between students. Every city across the world is nothing but a concrete jungle. They are the perils of urbanization, development, and encourage peer policing between students. Students, many, more than two, you cannot use between. You have to use among. Encourage peer police. No, encourage what? Policing. We have to use the gerund form. Encourages. The purpose of these committees is to engage students, to engage and to encourage. So we cannot use encourages. Encourage peer policing among students seems right. Hold that one. Encouraged, no. The purpose of these committees is to engage students in a positive way and to encourage peer policing among students. Two is understood. Peer means same level. Peer, same level, age group or social status. Some people are at the same level, then we use the term peers. And I've given many a time, there's one expression, peer pressure. Peer pressure means what? People of the same level, they put pressure on you. Then it is known as peer pressure, an important expression. Now you have questions, word swap. All the five correct. Very good, Srinivas. That's wonderful. Peer pressure, important expression you have to remember. People pick up bad habits because of peer pressure. No one is bad by birth. No one is a leader by birth. Society, circle, not friendly. Peer means same level, either age wise or position wise or social status wise. Please listen to the instructions. You have four words. Either you have to swap or no need to swap. Swap means what? Exchange. Read carefully and tell me which two words have to be swapped. That's very good. Princess. We have a princess here. Very good. I appreciate all the five correct. Read carefully. Word swap. A new pattern. Earnest holy celebrations began in raucous. Raucous means loud and noisy, harsh. On Thursday afternoon, hours before the effigy of Holika. Nothing wrong, effigy. Usually this goes with politicians. Effigy of the minister, the MP, the MLA, lit up in many localities of the city, no problem. Here you cannot say earnest holy celebrations. Began in earnest. Begin in earnest is a standard phrase. So based on that, we have to change A, B. Raucous means loud, harsh sound, loud noise or harsh sound. So raucous holy celebrations began in earnest. That's a standard phrase. Do remember. Wood, piled furniture, and cow dung cakes were discarded into a heap to be lit up at night in Begum Bazaar area. Cow dung cakes, not our regular cakes, a different meaning altogether. Cow dung cakes. Began in earnest. Remember the phrase. Whenever you want to start something, you start in earnest, begin in earnest, which means what? With a lot of passion, commitment, interest. Please focus on the questions. Exactly. Parental pressure also plays a pivotal role. Yes, Madhav, you're right. Here, piled furniture and cow dung cakes were discarded into a heap. Discarded doesn't go in that place. Cow dung cakes, a standard phrase, no problem. Cow dung cakes, take as one unit. Heap, into a heap. So no problem with this. We have to change AC. Wood, discarded furniture, and cow dung cakes were piled into a heap, one above the other, piling into a heap. Yes, piled up also you can say. Let us go to question number 3. It was learned that the government staff called up the students and the parents asking for details such as the course the students were pursuing in Ukraine, year of education, passport number, and others. Heap means this is a heap, a small hill, you can say. When things are piled up one above the other and they take the shape of a mountain, we use the word heap. Very good. You don't have to No need to touch. No exchange. Perfect. Very good. I appreciate. No exchange. It is a weapon and should have been kept in open. Instead, it was left in the locker and was accessible to everyone. No swap. Yes. It is a weapon. Nothing wrong here. And should have been kept in a. You cannot use open here. In a locker. Instead, it was left in the open and was accessible to everyone. So here it is BC. Question number 4, easy, not that difficult. BC. In a locker, but it was left in the open. Easy to make out based on grammar knowledge. Now let us go to idioms. These are not idioms actually. I should have changed. No problem. Better late than never. Phrasal verbs. You have the meanings and you have the phrasal verbs. You have to choose the correct phrasal verb based on the meanings. To move quickly from place to place. To move quickly from place to place. All the 4 correct. Very good, Srinivas again. Only error location difficult, I suppose, today. Other exercises easy. Phrase replacement easy. And word swap also easy. To move quickly from place to place, zip around. Answer E. Zip around. Pull something repeatedly. Very good, I appreciate that. Pull something repeatedly. Yank at. A. Very good. Focus on something or put your attention on something. This, if you read the newspapers, you come across quite often. Focus on something. Zero in on. Third one, it is not B, it is D. Focus on something or put your attention on something. Zero in on something. To want something very much. Yearning for success. So here it is. To want something very much. B is the answer. Yearn for success. To shout loudly. Yell at. You can also use yell out. C is the answer. Has anyone got all the 5 correct? That is again highly appreciable. Let us go to the last exercise, editorial vocabulary. Hinder, part of speech verb, hindered, a regular verb, means what? Block or impede. C. Solidarity, noun. Unity. Yes, all the 5 correct. Hema, very good. Only one student has responded. Solidarity means what? Unity. Truce, part of speech, noun. Agree to stop fighting. Turmoil, remember the combination political turmoil, chaotic situation. Reprieve, verb. Delay, before a very unpleasant event or incident which may or may not happen. Another meaning, delay the punishment or the death penalty. F is the answer. Wrangle, verb, wrangling, to get into a long fight or dispute. B is the answer. Facilitate, do recollect the word felicitate different, facilitate different. Don't get confused. What does it mean? Make easy. Make something easy or easier. Facilitators. Revoke, regular verb. Officially cancel. Answer is D. Opt means to choose. When there's no choice, Hobson's choice, do remember. Make a choice. Opt, opted. Champion here, it is a verb, not a noun. Stop also you can say. Champion, vigorously support. Champion a cause. Vigorously support a cause. Has anyone got all the 10 correct? That's all for today. Thanks for being with me till 9 o'clock. Have a nice day. I would like to, again, all those who are going to take the exam today and tomorrow there is no editorial. Those who are going to take the exam today and tomorrow, all the best, do well, and read the sentences meticulously with a focused mind. Try to answer easy ones first, then moderate, then difficult if time permits. And if at all the paper is very tough, do remember, if it is tough for you, it is tough for everyone.